Millennials will play a major role in this year's election. A new survey shows who they will most likely support. The Black Youth Project at the University of Chicago conducted the new GenForward survey. They questioned about 1,800 young adults between the ages of 18 and 30 between October 1st and October 14th. Joining me via Skype in Chicago to break down the results, Cathy Cohen with the Black Youth Project at the University of Chicago. Also joining me, Brittany, Packnett, education activist, co-founder of Campaign Zero, who recently decided to throw her support to Hillary Clinton. Cathy, first off, what is the poll revealing about millennials and who they're going to back in this election?
Well, it's telling us a lot that, in fact, Hillary Clinton has finally, it seems, solidified a version of the Obama coalition. She's going to get we suspect about 60% of the youth vote, overwhelmingly African-American, Latino, and Asian American. And now, surprisingly, about a majority of young whites are saying they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Now,
60% blacks, a majority of young whites, but are those others going to Donald Trump, or are they going to Gary Johnson and Jill Stein?
No, well, so the majority will go to Hillary Clinton, about 60%. The others will go to Donald Trump and to some degree to Gary Johnson. Johnson will be, I think, less of a factor than most people have suggested. But I want to be clear. Overwhelming majorities of African Americans, Latinos, and Asian Americans are going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
And let's explain those numbers. 80% African Americans, 74% Asian Americans, 63% Latinos, 52% white.
Yes, but I think the important thing that for people to remember is that even though she's going to get a majority of the youth vote, her coalition is going to look a little different than President Obama's, right? He got 91% of the African-American vote. She's probably going to get about 80, at least in our polls. He got 86% of the Asian-American vote. She's probably going to get 74. He got 74 of the Latino vote. She's probably going to get 63. In 2012, we'll have to remember, President Obama actually did not get a majority of white youth voting that day, but it looks like Hillary Clinton, in fact, will get the majority of the white youth vote.
What was it a matter of? It was a question of Trump's comments, or was there something that she did to bring them along?
That's a great question. I think eventually it was just the cumulative nature of Trump's comments. I mean, we have a question about his comments about Miss Universe, and we see that almost 50% of his supporters say they're less likely to vote for him after those comments. So I think time after time after time, it just becomes increasingly hard, even for young people who don't like Hillary Clinton, who were supporting Bernie Sanders, to say that they're going to vote for Donald Trump. And in fact, you know, a majority of young people across racial groups have told us that they think Donald Trump is a racist, that he's unqualified to be president. He may not even be, they say, healthy enough to be president. So I think there's just high disgust with Donald Trump.
I want to go to Brittany Packnett. Brittany, you held out for a long time there. The Clinton campaign was working hard to get your endorsement. Why did you make the decision? What was it for you to say, you know what, now I'm going to go public with supporting Hillary Clinton? What led to that?
You know, it was a very personal decision, and it was a combination of factors. It was a lot of prayer and thought. For me, a lot of research and identifying with her as a woman leader like myself. Certainly, as the speaker said before, the cumulative nature of Donald Trump's comments and recognizing that he's too dangerous, but also recognizing that at a certain point, we have to begin to build coalition with someone who is at least more aligned with the things that we care about so that we can have a positive and engaged pathway forward. So that's why it took me a long time, but that's why at this point I do believe she's the best candidate.
And when you talk about that, I mean, because this has been an issue, and one of the reasons why the race was also so close is because you had so many millennials who were not sure if they wanted to support Hillary Clinton. Many, of course, were enthusiastic about Senator Bernie Sanders. Then I heard folks talking about Jill Stein, some talking about Gary Johnson. Do you also believe that this was a matter, Brittany, of as you got closer to the election, reality set in and folks said, okay, one of these two is going to be president. How can I get more out of one than the other when it comes to issues that I care about?
Well, accountability is absolutely a part of this equation. And this is Secretary Clinton is someone who's shown herself to at least be open to listening, and the ways in which Bernie Sanders' campaign have influenced her platform now, the ways in which previous conversations that we have had have influenced our criminal justice platform are important. So she's shown herself to be someone who listens, someone who we can hold accountable. And most certainly it's not just about reality setting in, but it's about recognizing that our votes are valuable. And so being thoughtful thoughtful and intentional about how we use them and about how we use the platforms that we have was absolutely a part of this conversation.
All right, then, Brittany, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Cathy, thank you as well. All right, well, go back to our panel here. Again, to me, this is important because the Clinton campaign knew they had a problem, Tiffany, and they had to focus with laser-like emphasis on millennial voters.
Yeah, no, I think Brittany's absolutely right. When there was two folds of it. One, Hillary's efforts to make sure that she actually captures some of the Obama coalition, but two, our own reconciliation with the reality of what's going to set in and what's going to happen now, but us taking ownership over our entire movement that we have built and figuring out the different tactics that we can continue to do to push our movement forward, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether I'm a member of the BYP project here in D.C., whether it's talking about immigration, whether it's talking about mass incarceration, women's issues and discrimination. There has to be a reality that we set in and say, okay, well, we know for sure Donald Trump is not going to help with any of these issues. And so how do we engage in tactics, running for office, making sure that we're still on the streets marching, making sure that we're lobbying our legislators, but that we're also going to use our vote this upcoming election to get what we want after November 8th. And like you always say, Roland, after we have the election, we have to make sure we keep fighting and doing the organizing that we're doing and the campaigns that we want to run up until we know for sure Hillary's going to be able to support and have our backs. We want to have hers.
Well, you know, Roland, the millennial vote is super important, and this is important support. But the challenge for Hillary Clinton and the millennials is going to come after this election. Presumably she wins. How does she keep this coalition together? How does she balance the left with her centrist policy positions? And how do you meet those challenges? Because out of this election, more than any other election, accountability because of this coalition is going to be super important. And then if she loses, for example, what does the Bernie Sanders, the millennials, and the left do, and how do they make the comeback in 4 years?
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.